ratios about unit rate. So you know from yesterday's lesson that to write a rate, it must be a fraction. Okay? So then today we're going to take that and we're going to take the rate and we're going to make it a unit rate. So it says a rate is a ratio, and we write ratios as, what do we write a ratio as? A what? Okay, so a rate is a ratio of two quantities having different kinds of units. Suppose you text 60 characters in 30 seconds. Characters would be like any individual letter, period, comma, those are your characters in 30 seconds. This can be written as a rate. So it's characters to seconds. And we've been working on that on our number 7 and 8 of our bell word. Okay? And notice how some of you were able to solve the problem, but I said get used to writing it as a fraction. And this is why, because we're going to get into this. When a rate is simplified so that it has a denominator of 1. So we have to get that denominator to 1. It then is now a unit rate. Because a unit means 1. Okay, does that make sense? You guys understand that? A unit is 1. So it says to write a rate as a unit rate, divide the numerator and the denominator of the rate by the denominator. So I'm just taking 60 divided by 30. In this case, it comes out an even 2. You're still going to, so you're going to do the division, okay? But then you're going to make sure it stays as a ratio and put it over the number 1. You guys understand that? Sometimes it's not always going to be an even 2 to 1. Okay? So we're dividing and we're reducing. So for our first example, it says, express each rate as a unit rate, round to the nearest 10, if necessary. Go ahead and get your calculators handy, because I am going to let you use your calculators, because the biggest part of this lesson is setting it up. Can you set it up? Can you have it in the right direction? And then go ahead and use your calculator. So it says, express each rate as a unit rate, round to the nearest tenth, if necessary. So $11 for 4 boxes. Don't ever put boxes on top. Like I told you in the bill work, it's always cost per whatever it is, boxes, item, cost per ounce. Cost is always on top no matter what it is, okay? So it'd be $11 per 4 boxes. I'm dividing 11 divided by 4. So I'd put that in my calculator, 11 divided by 4. So I set up the rate, and then I would rewrite it as $2.75 over 1. So do you see how they're showing you they're dividing by 4 or dividing by 4? Because that gets this down to 1. Well, if you're just doing this as a division, you're going to get this down to 1. 400 miles on 14 gallons of gasoline. Write the rate that compares the number of miles to the number of gallons. It's 400 miles per 14 gallons. So I would, in my calculator, I'm going to take 400 divided by 14. Your answer is then going to be 28.6. Make sure you put it over 1. So it's miles per gallon. Okay? When it's a rate, you always say that it's not divided by, you would say it's per gallon. Okay? So if I have $18.50 for 5 pounds, the first thing that you need to do, you can't just put it in a calculator. First thing that you have to do is you have to write it as a ratio. Okay? So I would write it as $18.50, so $18.50 per 5 pounds. And in rates and ratios, labels matter a lot. Then can I put this in my calculator? Now I can. So what's $18.50 divided by 5? You guys have your calculators, you guys got to tell me what the answer is.
3.7.
3.7? So it's 3.7, but because we're dollars, it'd be $3.70 per 1 pound. Do you see how I had to finish writing it as a ratio? On your whiteboards, I want you to do 1B. I need to see the initial ratio. And then you can use your calculator and then tell me what the final ratio is. By able to use a calculator, it shouldn't take very long, but as I scan through some of your answers, I'm not seeing labels. You have to have the labels. So when I would have started this, I would have written 100 meters over 14 seconds. So it's 100 meters per 14 seconds. Then you did 100 divided by 14, which came out to be what? 7 point what? 14.
And there's a lot more after that.
And there's a lot more after that, but we're gonna round to the nearest. This says to round to the nearest tenth, so we could, how many of you rounded actually to the 100? Okay, just be careful, make sure you're just rounding and then look and see what it says, maybe at top. So if you rounded to the 100th, it'd be here. If you rounded to the 10th, it'd be there. What's my label? Don't forget the meter, and then I'm going to put that over 1 second. So it's 7.1 meters per second. You guys with me? All right, we're gonna keep moving on then. You guys need to turn the page in your book? So far, so good. We're going to, we're finding the unit rates. You guys see where I've been letting you use a calculator? It'll just save some time, but the important part is that you're setting it up and know how to do it. Okay? That's the advantage of getting into stuff. Great. Now we're going to compare the unit prices. All right, so let's look here. It says an online music store sells 15 songs for $12. Okay, I know that it says 15 songs for $12. A lot of you are going to think it's 15 for 12. But what did I just say a few minutes ago? Cost is always on top. So do not write it like that. It would need to be written $12 per 15 songs, even though the 12 is smaller. Cost is always on top. And don't let the, because I'll be honest, sometimes I look at that, I'm like, oh, it's 15 for 12. And I've done the same thing. I've made that mistake. But then I have to constantly think in my head, no. Cost is always on top. Okay? No matter what. I don't care that it's written like this. So it says, an online music store sells 15 songs for $12. Another online music store sells 10 songs for $9. Which online store has a lower cost per song? What you're doing is you're finding the unit price. So I take $12 per 15 songs, and I'm just going to do 12 divided by 15. So it'd be $0.8 per song for the first one. Then I take for the second one, $9 per 10 songs. I'm sorry, taking 9 divided by 10, and I get $0.9 per 10 songs. When you guys go do this, please don't write $0.8. Please put it in like 80 cents per one song. Then I would write this as 90 cents per one song. Get used to putting it with the dollar sign and decimal. You guys understand that? Okay? So then I can compare which one is a cheaper buy, the 80 cents a song or 90 cents a song. So $12 for 15 songs is my better deal. So what says, which online store has a lower cost? It'd be the one for 15 songs for $12. So let's do this example together. A store sells 2 different sizes of the same brand of sunscreen. An 8-ounce bottle for $5.76 and a 12-ounce bottle for $8.88. Which size bottle is the better buy? Try it on your board. Set it up. I need to see it set up, and then I need to see the work, except for the work that you're doing on your calculator. It says 8 ounces for $5.76. So I put the 8 ounces on top. Yes or no? No. You should always do the $5.76 per 8 ounces. That comes out to, I do the division in my calculator. What does it come out to be? What? 72 cents. So please write it as 72 cents per 1 ounce. Then I go and compare the next one, which is sold for $8.88 for 12 ounces. That becomes what? When I put that in my calculator, what was my division? 74 cents. So then I ask which one has a better rate or which one has the better buy. Would it be the smaller container or the bigger container? So remember yesterday, or I can't remember if it was yesterday, a couple days ago, and we were talking about, we were comparing peanut butter jars, and I said it's not always the bigger the container, the better the buy. You have to be careful. That's why we create the unit rate. Go ahead and erase your boards in our next example, example 3. A typical bottlenose dolphin will take about 34 breaths in 4 hours. How many breaths will a bottlenose dolphin take in 7 hours? Okay. First you have to write 34 breaths per 7 hours. How many breaths will be, okay, I want to know how many breaths. In this unit rate, to compare the unit rate, you need to put breaths on top. I don't know that, so that's going to be an X. Do you guys understand that? And I'm doing it different than what they've given you, okay? How many breaths will the bottlenose dolphin take in 7 hours? I should have made this 4 hours, sorry. Takes 34 breaths in 4 hours. And I want to know how many breaths the bottlenose will take in 7 hours. So my hours to hours are the same. Do you guys see that? Sometimes I can figure out what I took 4 times to get to 7. Can I figure that out easily right now? No. So this is where you set up your ratios, and what you guys call is your, what method? Toothbrush method, which is really cross multiplication. So then I'm gonna take 34 times 7 equals 4 times x. So, please somebody do 34 times 7 in your calculator. What do you get? 238 equals 4x. How do I solve for x? So then I'm gonna divide by 4 and divide by 4. So do 238 divided by 4, which is 59.5 equals x. So, how many breaths will they take in 7 hours? It'd be 59.5. Let's take a look and see how they showed it. They have 34 breaths to 4 or 8.5 to 1. They made it the unit rate to begin with. You guys understand that? They took the 34 divided by 4, which is 8.5. Okay, do you guys see? We did it after setting this up. A little bit different. And then they took the 8.5 breaths, because it's per hour, they multiplied it by the 7 hours. So you can find the unit rate first and then multiply it by what you need, or set it up as equivalent ratios. A lot of times if you set it up as an equivalent ratio, you won't make the mistake. You can choose which way you want to do it. Okay? So let's do this example. We're going to do this one together, and I'm going to show you both ways. A bakery can make 195 donuts in 3 hours. I'm going to write that a ratio. What's going to be on top? So 195, and I'm going to label it with just a D for donuts, in 3 hours. At this rate, how many donuts can the bakery make in 8 hours? Where's my 8 going to go? Is it going to go on top or the bottom? It's going to stay on the bottom because I want to keep it in my hours. Does that make sense? So then my X is on top. Then you're going to do this. I need to see this work. So then I take 195 and I'm going to show 195 times 8 equals 3x. Then do this in your calculator. What's 195 times 8? 1,560?
Yes.
So 1,560 equals 3x. Then I'm going to show that I'm dividing by 3, divide by 3, but am I going to do this in my calculator? Yes. So we'll do 1,560 divided by 3. 520? So 520 equals x, and my x is the number of donuts. So they can make 520 donuts in 8 hours. Another way that they solved it like this, they started by writing the unit rate. 195 donuts per 3 hours. Take 195 divided by 3, please.
65.
What is it? 65. So 65 donuts per hour. How many hours am I baking them for? 8. So then I'm going to show 65 times 8. Do that in your calculator, please.
20.
And it's 520 donuts in 8 hours. You have 2 options. You still have to show your work on the paper, but use your calculator to help and make it go faster. Type 1, and we're going to call that type B, or type 2, I guess. I wouldn't say 1 and then B. 2. How many of you like the way I did it, number 1, best? How many of you are gonna do it like choice number 1? How many of you are gonna do it like choice number 2? How many of you are gonna do a mix? Don't. One or the other. Pick one way or the other, because otherwise you will make mistakes. Now, here is just an example for this. Sometimes using the first way will help you, because sometimes your X might be down here. And we'll get to that. Let's go on to our next example. Oh wait, we're done with our examples, aren't we? We're already on to the practice. I think that'll come up in another lesson then. So go ahead, you can go ahead and stop.